John Tramontana has the answer I've been looking for a long time. I love Italian food. How can I learn to cook it? His book, When It Tastes Good, It's Done. Mangia. John, how'd you learn to cook?
Well, it probably stems from, as a child, I cooked with my grandmother all the time. And I was always in her kitchen doing something, either going into the garden to get basil or other spices that she had out there. And when I came back, we cooked. And there were no recipes. Everything was done with a pinch of that and a handful of this. And that's how I learned to cook in her kitchen.
I'm curious about everybody else. Did everybody else learn, or did you just take to it?
I think I just took to it. I was the oldest of the grandchildren, so I was way older than some of the other grandchildren. So I was like the only grandson for like 4 years. So she taught me what she wanted to teach me and everything she knew. She did a great job.
So you learn all these great recipes. You're learning at the foot of the master, and you end up going to become a chemical engineer. You get a degree in chemical engineering. John, what were you thinking? What happened there?
You know, that's a great question. What was I thinking? Anyway, it's something that I wanted to do, and one of my high school teachers kind of pushed me in that direction, and I'm glad he did. It worked out well. I had a relatively good chemical engineering degree and an MBA that I got from the University of Buffalo. And my last corporate job, I was the chief operating officer of a food ingredient company. So I did that for 10 years and traveled the world doing that, and always looking at recipes and cooking techniques and things like that. So that helped me in my cooking as well.
Wow. Tell us about being the COO of a food ingredient company. That actually is a perfect match for you. I could see how someone would interview you with your personality, your background, and then just even knowing your love for food.
It was we made a lot of different liquid chemicals that went into food items. Emulsifiers for making processed cheese, and we made a lot of preservatives as well. So we made sodium benzoate and potassium sorbate, all of which are strong preservatives for the food industry. One of the things that I did on a routine basis was go to China for a month. And what I did was I went and qualified the import material, citric acid material from China, and made sure that it met all the FDA standards. And once we got those all those audits done, we negotiated pricing and brought in a fair amount of citric acid from China for our products.
Wow, that had to be interesting with the customs and the culture and what you had to learn from a business point of view before you went into that situation, especially the first time.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We did have a Chinese national that traveled with us and set up our travel itineraries, but it was a month and was 30 days every day. So there was no time off when we were over there. It was a very busy time.
Wow. Well, the name of the book again is When It Tastes Good, It's Done, Mangia. So in the book, what will we find? Tell us about some of the recipes.
It's broken up into sections. There's an appetizer recipe, and there's some dessert recipes that my wife actually helped me out with. She's the dessert person in the family. And I went through various sauces, marinara sauce, Alfredo sauce, and just things like that. And you take the marinara sauce and you use that not only as a sauce on its own, but as ingredients in the other sauces. So when you make, for instance, a cioppino, which is a seafood stew, you'll make a seafood stock and you'll mix that with the marinara and cook the fish in that. And when it's done, it tastes terrific, and it's a wonderful seafood stew.
Do you have a favorite recipe?
I guess I do. The shrimp and asparagus is a pretty simple recipe, and it's our go-to. It's our go-to recipe, our family recipe. It's simply shrimp aliolio with broccoli, and it's very very good. And I'm kind of let me think. I prefer the veal parmesan too. When you pound out the veal and get it thin and fry it up, when it comes out, it melts in your mouth. You can cut it with a fork. It's terrific. So those are two of my favorites, I guess. But there are many.
Oh yeah, wow, I love it. What's good about your book is there are recipes that are easy, because for most of us mere mortals, we don't have that background that you have where it's like, oh, I just step into the kitchen, no problem. I know exactly what I'm doing here. In fact, you know it so well. People listen to this. John had a restaurant. I mean, gosh, all these things you've done. What was it like to be in the restaurant business? And you did that for what, a decade?
Yeah, we did. We had a restaurant for 10 years, and it was difficult in the beginning because it was something that I didn't quite know how to jump into. Running an international business for me was significantly easier than running a restaurant. There are different rules and regulations and all that stuff, and you're really working with the public directly, as I was the chef. So it was an interesting. It was just an interesting change. And I had retired from my corporate responsibilities early, and I did some consulting for a couple of years, and needed something to do. And a restaurant became available very close to home. So I said, "Okay, Di, what do you think? Can I do this?" She goes, "I think you can do it. It's going to take work." And yes, it did. It was a lot of work, but it was fun. In the end, we were doing very, very well. It was certainly something that I'm really glad I did. Another check on the bucket list.
Yeah, what I was going to say, that's a bucket list thing. And what's interesting is now with this cookbook too, all those people who love coming to your restaurant, I mean, there's some of the magic that you've sprinkled in the book and some of the things that you were able to make at the restaurant. I think people don't realize, John, how difficult it is to run a restaurant. Like you say, you're talking about it was easier to do the international business than it was to run a restaurant. And I don't know that we all think about that when we go into our favorite restaurant, because it's not just about the cooking, it's the ordering, it's the people that you have to hire. And the hiring's tough, especially now.
It is. It's very tough. That's one of the reasons that we got out of the business, because we just couldn't keep any help anymore. You'd have people that would come for a few days and leave, and you're training all these people. And it got to the point where I said, I prefer not to do this anymore. So we get rid of the restaurant. And it was a sad day, but it was a good day. They say like the best 2 days of owning a boat is when you buy it and when you sell it. Same thing for a restaurant.
Yeah, I like that. Same thing for a restaurant. What do you think your grandmother would say if she knew all the things that have happened in your life as a result, I think, so much of learning what you learned from her?
That's an excellent question. And I've thought about that quite a bit. She would be exceedingly proud. She worked in our school system for 47 years. And she cooked in our little hometown, all our lunchrooms for 47 years, and eventually became the chief nutritionalist. So me following in her footsteps and cooking all her recipes as well as she taught me would make her very, very proud.
When people read your book, when they grab your book and they're looking at the recipes, what do you hope they take away? What do you hope the senses they get of this book?
What I hope they would get is that you start the book out, and I took all my pinches and handfuls and things and turned them into teaspoons and tablespoons and cups. But I asked people to go out and buy this 6-segment. What it is, it's a it's a bar fruit station is what it is. And I put 6 different spices in it: salt, table ground black pepper, granulated garlic, basil, parsley, and the 6th one is red pepper. And all of my recipes are with different pinches of those different spices. So once you get the hang of it and you know that your pinch is a teaspoon or it's a half a teaspoon or whatever, you can just go and just take 3 pinches of this and 4 pinches of this and put it all together. And when you're done, it'll come out the same every time. And that's what makes this so easy. And if you think there's a little bit too much salt, then you cut the salt out. Or if you like a little bit more garlic, you can add some more garlic. You want a little spicy, you can add the red pepper. It's a flexible book, and it allows you to take each of the recipes that I put in the book, which are the way I like to eat the specific recipe, and change it. And you can make it whatever you want it. With those 6 spices, you can make quite a bit of changes and change the flavor of it. And what I ultimately hope is that you'll find a recipe that you've made a few changes in that's become your favorite recipe. And that's what I would really hope for this book.
I love that. Just the 6 spices, having those and being able to change it up. That is very different, that formula, than so many other books I think people pick up and they are overwhelmed. And
Well,
I like that because you explain it, you want a little spice, or you want a little this, a little that. And then also that you transfer whether it's tablespoons, etc., versus a pinch, because people get confused.
Yeah, they do. Yes, they do.
Well, this book is wonderful. When it tastes good, it's done. Mangia, you can get it on Barnes & Noble, Amazon, wherever great books are sold. John, thanks so much.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure, Kate.